Welcome back to Keep Heading East. I'm Murray from the YSC Cookery School. If you're joining us again, then welcome back. If you're joining this series for the first time, then we're just moving away from Europe and entering the Middle East. You can check out the main introduction to this series by clicking the on-screen link or follow the link in the description below to the free PDF cookbook with all of the dishes that we'll be cooking in this series. Or if you prefer a printed version, then there's one available as well. Now, Middle Eastern cuisine is often kind of lumped together as a style of cooking of its own right. And it's no real surprise because depending on who you ask, the countries included in the Middle East sort of vary slightly. Generally speaking, the Middle East are the countries that lie on the southern and eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea, the Arabian Peninsula, and by some definitions, North Africa, Iran sometimes, and sometimes beyond. So countries like Bahrain, Cyprus, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey, the UAE and Yemen. The central part of this general area was formerly called the Near East by some of the first modern Western geographers and historians. They often referred to the Orient as three regions. The Near East, which is the region closest to Europe, extending from the Mediterranean Sea through to the Persian Gulf. The Middle East, from the Persian Gulf to Southeast Asia. And the Far East, the furthest regions of the Orient from Europe that all face the Pacific Ocean. Now, as this is a whistle-stop tour of global feasting and not a history lesson on the area, I want to jump through a few of the main countries in the Middle East and highlight some of the more characteristic ingredients and dishes and influences. Starting with Turkey. Now, as with the majority of Middle Eastern countries, Turkish cuisine takes its firm roots from the Ottoman Empire, which existed between the 14th and the 20th century. Through these years, it developed a kind of fusion and refinement of Central Asian, Middle Eastern, Mediterranean and Eastern European, Armenian and Balkan cuisines. Known at the time as Ottoman Palace or Ottoman court cuisine, this really diverse cuisine was amalgamated and perfected in the imperial palace kitchens by chefs brought from certain parts of the empire to create and experiment with different ingredients and to invent new dishes. Now, all the dishes intended for the Sultan to eat were first passed by the palate of the imperial food taster. Yes, that actually was a job. Who tasted all the food for both poison and for flavour. Now, the creations from the Ottoman palace kitchens sort of then filtered into the common population and are largely what we now know as Middle Eastern cuisine today. Now, as the capital of the Ottoman Empire was located in what's now known as Istanbul, Turkish cuisine really has become the centre of the style of cooking, and the influence is spread right across the Middle East. So let's look at some of the ingredients used in Turkish cuisine. As with Mediterranean cuisine, there's always plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables, especially aubergines, courgettes, tomatoes, peppers, garlic, lemons, onions. Actually, in Turkey, lots and lots of raw onions. Tomato paste and red pepper paste are used a lot in Turkish dishes, and it's kind of a way to preserve the summer glut for the rest of the year. Now, while Italian tomato concentrate's quite a good alternative for Turkish tomato paste, there isn't really an alternative for pepper paste, so you need to hunt that down from your nearest Turkish supermarket. They're actually a great place to explore for new ingredients and such. Bulgur wheat remains the most eaten grain in Turkey, and rice, which arrived in Turkey via trade with China, is broadly considered more sort of a prestigious grain, and it remains a symbol of wealth. Both these grains are commonly used to make the pilafs that accompany almost every Turkish meal, and also added to soups and mixed with meat and spices to fill things like dolma and sarma. Tabbouleh is a fairly well-known salad which is made from bulgur wheat, and it's one of the entries into our Keep Heading East cookbook this week. A proper tabbouleh should be really quite green from the parsley, flat leaf parsley, with specks of bulgur through, as opposed to a really heavy grainy salad with a few flecks of parsley. This is really typical of Middle Eastern food. It should always be really fresh and herby and zingy and vibrant. Pulses feature quite highly, like red lentils for soup, chickpeas and white beans for stews and dips and things like that. Well, some of the more common herbs and spices would be things like mint, thyme, oregano, huge amounts of dill and plenty of flat leaf parsley. Dried chilies, cayenne pepper, cinnamon, allspice, cumin, nigella seeds and fenugreek. Then there's the nuts, plenty of nuts, things like pistachios, walnuts, hazelnuts, pine nuts, almonds. They're all sort of quite commonplace, as is honey and molasses. Some of the lesser known ingredients include things like vine leaves. Like their neighbours in Greece and in the Balkan states, cooks in Turkey use grape leaves primarily to wrap meat or vegetarian fillings made with rice and bulgur. Sumac, the dried and ground berry of a native bush in the Middle East, shows up a lot in the Kurdish dishes from the Turkish southwest. And one of my personal favourites from the area, pomegranate molasses. It's a really thick, sticky, sweet, sour syrup. It's really great for balancing out savoury dishes. Good quality pomegranate molasses should be really dark brown and almost black and made from nothing but reduced pomegranate juice. The Cortis brand from Lebanon is probably one of the best, but if you can't get hold of that, then there's plenty of other brands. But again, it's not so common in Western supermarkets. And failing that, you can always make your own by reducing down some unsweetened pomegranate juice, maybe adding a little bit of lemon juice to it, just to make it a little bit tart. And then there's tahini. Now this oily paste is made from lightly toasted and ground white sesame seeds. Now if you're buying tahini, make sure that you look at the ingredients list. There should be nothing on there but sesame seeds. And preferably white humera seeds from Ethiopia. Generally acknowledged by cooks in Turkey and the Middle East as being the most flavourful. Now good quality tahini is usually sold in tubs, plastic tubs, because it should be fairly fresh, or as fresh as possible. So avoid tahini sold in jars unless the production date tells you that it's not more than a couple of months old. It's quite easy to make tahini, and it shows up in a lot more recipes in Middle Eastern cuisine than just hummus. So why not just make it yourself? I've left a video link in the end cards which demonstrates the process and also a couple of other uses for tahini, like homemade Nutella. Yufka is a circular pastry made of salt, flour and water. It's kind of thicker and sturdier than Greek phyllo dough, but like phyllo it becomes really crispy when it's baked, and it makes an ideal base for all sorts of sweet and savoury baked pastries like baklava with pistachios and walnuts, etc. Now we can't visit Turkey without giving a nod to the iconic doner. Okay, everybody loves the doner kebab. The Turkish kebab shop needs no explanation really. However, if you're looking for something different for lunch this weekend, then why not have a crack at making your own? I've left the recipe for the Turkish bread in our cookbook and a video link for a clip by Clara.kitchen. It's everything you need to know about the doner and how to make a great version of it at home. She's a wonderful personality to watch and a great reference to Turkish cuisine with hundreds of great recipes and tips, so check her channel out as well. So that's it for this stop on our Keep Heading East tour of global cuisine. I hope you've enjoyed it. Links are on screen now for the videos I mentioned earlier if you'd like to see a little more from the region. And remember, for our subscribers, there's a fantastic cookbook to accompany this series. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and grab yourself a free PDF copy of our cookbook, or if you prefer a hard copy, the links are there as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon.